The human fleet floated silently above the strange violet skies of Arthar, a world known across the Outer Rim as the stronghold of Warlord Xylar. The planet's surface was covered with jagged mountains and massive cities built from dark metallic stone. From space, the cities looked like silver veins running through the rocky land, shining faintly under the planet's twin suns. General Marcus Kane studied the view from the bridge of his flagship. He had seen many worlds in his career, but Arthar was different. The people here were proud, fierce, and, according to reports, unyielding. Their leader, Xylar, was a warlord whose reputation made generals across the galaxy tremble. And now, Marcus had come not to fight, but to seek an alliance. Marcus was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved with the calm confidence of a man who had faced impossible odds and survived. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the planet's surface. Every detail mattered. Every shadow could hide danger. Yet beneath the professional calm, there was curiosity. Marcus had been told stories of Lyra, Xylar's daughter. She was said to be as clever as she was strong, a warrior capable of challenging her own father's generals. Marcus had faced tough opponents before, but he knew instinctively that meeting her would not be simple. The human fleet descended slowly, following the protocols Marcus had studied carefully. Communications had been sent ahead to Xylar's council, requesting a formal audience. As the flagship landed on a wide plateau outside the capital city, the ground trembled under the hum of alien engines. Marcus led a small contingent of trusted officers, each of them experienced, disciplined, and ready for anything. A group of Artharian guards approached, their armor shining dark blue with glowing symbols etched across the metal. Their weapons, long and slender, were unlike anything humans carried. Marcus stopped a few meters away, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. The leader of the guards, a tall alien with scales along his forearms, studied Marcus for a long moment before nodding. "General Kane," he said in a voice that was deep but surprisingly clear, "Warlord Xylar will see you. But know this, our daughter Lyra will also be present. She does not tolerate weakness." Marcus nodded. "I understand," he said. "I am not here to fight. I am here to speak." The group was led through massive gates into a city that seemed alive with movement. Hundreds of Artharians trained openly in the city square, their agility and speed astonishing. Marcus observed quietly, noting the discipline in their ranks. It was unlike any army he had seen. Each soldier moved with purpose, every step calculated. Even their formations had a strange elegance, a combination of art and efficiency. Finally, they reached the grand hall of Xylar. The doors were immense, made from a dark metal that shimmered faintly under the alien lights. When they opened, Marcus's eyes fell on a figure standing in the center of the room. Lyra. She was taller than Marcus expected, her posture proud, her movements precise. Her eyes, a striking shade of green, studied him without fear. Her armor, unlike her father's, was designed for speed and agility rather than protection. Every inch of her spoke of a warrior who had trained all her life. Marcus felt no fear, only a growing respect. "You are Marcus Kane," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "Human General, I have heard much about you." "And you are Lyra," Marcus replied calmly. "I have heard much about you as well. I hope to speak with honesty and respect." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Many come to Arthar with words. Few come with actions. You will not be judged by what you say, but by what you do." Marcus inclined his head. "I am ready to act." Before any formal discussion could begin, alarms sounded across the city. Marcus instinctively moved toward the source, Lyra following closely behind. Outside the hall, chaos had erupted. A small group of rebels, neither human nor Artharian, had infiltrated the city, seeking to provoke a war between the two civilizations. They carried explosives and weapons designed to create maximum destruction. Marcus didn't hesitate. He and his officers sprang into action. Using his knowledge of human tactics, he guided Lyra's unit to cover the civilians and disarm the explosives. Despite the alien technology being unfamiliar, Marcus adapted quickly, using what he knew about physics, timing, and strategy to anticipate the rebels' moves. Lyra watched him closely. She had expected human arrogance and recklessness, but Marcus's calm and calculated responses surprised her. He was not only brave but clever, able to read the battlefield and make decisions instantly. Even as the rebels tried to surround them, Marcus directed his forces with precision, minimizing casualties. After what felt like hours, but was only moments, the rebels were neutralized. Civilians were safe, and the city had suffered minimal damage. Lyra approached Marcus, her expression unreadable. "You did well," she said finally. "Most would have panicked or made mistakes. You protected us." Marcus shook his head slightly. "I only did what any leader should do. Protect people, minimize harm, and act with purpose. That is what keeps an army alive." Lyra studied him for a long moment, her usual pride softened slightly by genuine respect. "You are not like the others," she admitted. "Others come seeking power or glory. You act for something greater." Marcus smiled faintly. "We humans believe that courage is not only in battle, but in making the right choices. It is easy to fight. It is harder to protect." The rest of Xylar's council arrived then, and Lyra stepped back, giving Marcus room. Her father, the Warlord himself, entered, massive and imposing, his presence commanding silence. His eyes swept over Marcus, assessing him with the intensity of a predator. "You have saved my city today," Xylar said, his voice deep and authoritative. "Many humans would have seen only the threat. You saw only the solution. That earns my attention." Marcus bowed slightly. "I am honored, Warlord Xylar. My mission is peace, not conquest. I seek understanding and alliance between our people." Xylar's gaze moved to Lyra, who remained quiet, but alert. "And you, Lyra, what do you see in this human? You are known to judge swiftly and act decisively." Lyra did not hesitate. "He is capable. He respects strength and courage. He is different. That is all I will say for now." Marcus noted the subtle tone of approval in her voice. It was rare for Lyra to speak freely, and he understood that he had earned a small but meaningful trust. The meeting continued, discussions of trade, protection, and mutual benefit taking center stage. Marcus listened carefully, offering suggestions that respected Arthurian culture while advancing human interests. Lyra contributed, her insights sharp and precise, challenging Marcus in ways that made him think differently. By the end of the session, an understanding had formed. Marcus had not only prevented a potential disaster, but had also earned the cautious respect of one of the galaxy's fiercest warriors. Lyra, though not yet openly allied with him, had begun to see him as someone extraordinary, someone who could match her strength with wisdom, courage with strategy. As the day ended, Marcus and his team returned to the human ship. He looked out over Arthar's jagged landscape, thinking of what lay ahead. Two armies could rise in opposition, old grudges could erupt into war, but Marcus knew one thing clearly. The path forward required more than weapons. It required trust, courage, and the willingness to stand for what was right, no matter the danger. Lyra watched from the city walls as the humans departed, her thoughts heavy with curiosity and admiration. She had seen many warriors, but few had the combination of skill, intelligence, and honor that Marcus Kane possessed. She did not yet know the future, but she knew that the human general would change everything on Arthar, not just in the political sense, but in the hearts of those who followed him. And somewhere deep inside, both Marcus and Lyra felt a spark of something neither expected. an alliance that might grow into trust, respect, and something far more profound. The stars above Arthar twinkled as the human ship rose into orbit, carrying Marcus Kane onward. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and battles yet to come, but for the first time, a seed of hope had been planted, one that could unite humans and Artharians in ways that no one had imagined. The next morning, the city of Arthar was quiet, though tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. The citizens were alert, their eyes scanning the horizon, aware that danger could arrive at any moment. Marcus Kane, aboard his flagship hovering above the city, studied the reports sent from his scouts. Despite the calm intelligence indicated that rival factions from neighboring systems were preparing for an attack. These factions were determined to disrupt any chance of peace between humans and Artharians. Marcus knew he could not allow a full-scale war to erupt. His mission was clear: protect Arthar, ensure the alliance stayed possible, and prevent bloodshed. But he also knew that the Warlord's daughter, Lyra, would be watching every move. She was a warrior unlike any he had met, and her respect could be as dangerous as her anger. "Sir, we've detected unusual movement in the northern passes," reported Lieutenant Arlen, one of Marcus's most trusted officers. "Two groups are approaching fast. They're heavily armed, but their formations suggest inexperience. It looks like a trap to test us." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Prepare the landing team," he ordered. "We go on the ground. I want eyes on the enemy. Let's see who is brave enough to challenge us today." A few hours later, Marcus and a small unit of elite soldiers, both human and Artharian volunteers, descended into the northern passes. Lyra was there, waiting, her presence both reassuring and intimidating. She did not smile, but her eyes showed approval. "You chose wisely to come here yourself," she said. "These groups may be small, but they are reckless. They will die if we underestimate them." Marcus nodded. "I do not underestimate anyone, but we also do not want unnecessary loss. Let's see if we can end this without bloodshed." The enemy forces were moving quickly, flanked by armored vehicles and strange flying drones. Marcus observed the formations carefully. They were trying to provoke a battle, hoping that humans and Artharians would clash first. "Divide their attention," Marcus whispered to Lyra. "Draw half toward me. You take the rest and protect the civilians in the nearby village. Keep them out of the fight." Lyra's eyes narrowed, but she quickly understood. "I will handle my side, but if they fall back, you must be ready. You humans are not as familiar with this terrain." Marcus smiled faintly. "That is why I have you." The battle began with a sudden rush. Marcus's unit moved like a single organism, using both human technology and Artharian combat techniques. The humans' precision and speed, combined with the Artharians' agility and strength, created a force that surprised the enemy. Marcus was everywhere at once, directing, advising, and fighting when necessary. Lyra, meanwhile, moved like a shadow among her troops. She was unmatched with her energy blades, slicing through enemy drones and disabling vehicles with precise strikes. But more than that, she inspired her people. The soldiers moved faster, smarter, stronger when they saw her in action. And she noticed Marcus, moving with the same calm confidence she admired in very few warriors. At one point, a group of enemy soldiers tried to flank Marcus's position. Using terrain to his advantage, Marcus anticipated their movements and guided his forces to intercept. He did not attack recklessly. Every step was measured, every move planned. His strategy minimized casualties on both sides, disorienting the attackers and forcing them to retreat. Lyra noticed his skill. She had expected humans to rely only on brute force and technology, but Marcus demonstrated something rarer: strategy and respect for life. She felt a spark of admiration, though she would not admit it aloud. After several hours, the enemy forces finally began to withdraw. Marcus and Lyra regrouped, standing on a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, the remains of destroyed vehicles and drones littered the ground, but the civilians were safe. "You performed well," Lyra said, her voice softer than usual. "You did not just fight. You guided, protected, and calculated every move. That is impressive." Marcus shook his head. "It is not about being impressive. It is about responsibility. A leader must think of everyone, not just victory. That is the difference between a true soldier and a soldier who fights blindly." Lyra's eyes met his. There was a moment of silence, filled with understanding. Neither spoke, but both knew that respect had grown stronger. Marcus did not seek her approval, yet it mattered. Lyra did not seek human trust, yet she found herself admiring him. Back at the capital, Warlord Xylar awaited news of the battle. He was impressed. Marcus had not only protected the city, but had done so with intelligence and honor. Many had doubted that a human could understand the delicate balance of Arthurian culture. Yet Marcus had proven them wrong. The Warlord's advisors debated late into the night. "This human is clever," one of them said. "He has skill. But can he be trusted?" Xylar's voice was steady. "Trust is earned, not given. Today he has earned my attention. Tomorrow we will see if he can earn my respect." Meanwhile, Lyra returned to the training grounds, her mind restless. She could not stop thinking about Marcus. His calm demeanor, his ability to adapt, his courage, all of it challenged her expectations. She had trained to follow the rules, to honor her people, and to reject weakness. Yet Marcus had shown her strength in a different way, strength tempered by wisdom and honor. Marcus, in his quarters aboard the flagship, reviewed the reports of the battle. Every detail mattered, every decision documented. He was a human general, and this was what he did best: analyze, learn, adapt. But even he could not ignore the connection forming between him and Lyra. It was unusual, unexpected, yet undeniable. They were both warriors, both leaders, and both bound by duty, but now something else had begun to grow. The next day, Marcus requested a private audience with Lyra. She accepted, curious but cautious. They met in the city's training hall, a vast space filled with the hum of energy fields used for practice combat. Lyra moved first, striking with speed and precision. Marcus countered, not with aggression, but with skillful defense, reading her movements and predicting her strikes. "You are fast," Marcus said, parrying another strike, "but your form is flawless. You could teach this to your soldiers." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "And you are not afraid to move with me, even though we come from different worlds. Most humans would hesitate or fail." Marcus lowered his stance. "I do not hesitate. I watch, I learn, and I act. That is how we survive, how we win. You taught me that lesson just now." They trained together for hours, exchanging techniques, testing their limits, and learning from one another. Neither noticed the time passing. By the end, they were both exhausted but exhilarated. A mutual understanding had formed, not just of skill, but of character. Later, as the sun set over the Violet Mountains, Lyra stood on the balcony of the Grand Hall, watching Marcus's ship depart for the night. She felt something she had not expected: trust. Perhaps even more. Respect had grown into something deeper, though she could not yet name it. Marcus looked back at her from the ship, feeling the same pull. He was a man of duty, of mission, of honor, but he had not anticipated the connection he felt with the fierce alien warrior. He knew the challenges ahead would test both of them: politics, rival armies, and cultural differences, but he also knew that together they could overcome anything. That night the city slept, but the stars above Arthur seemed brighter than ever. Two warriors, from two very different worlds, had begun a bond that would change not only their lives but the future of the galaxy. Marcus Kane had proven his courage. Lyra had seen strength beyond her expectations. And though the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear. The human general and the alien warlord's daughter were destined to face the coming storms together. And somewhere deep inside, both Marcus and Lyra felt it, a spark of something extraordinary, a connection born of honor, courage, and mutual respect. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges yet unseen, but for the first time, hope had taken root. The sky above Arthur burned with the colors of two suns as Marcus Kane prepared for what could be the most difficult challenge of his life. Reports had arrived that two armies, one human and one alien, were mobilizing in response to misinformation spread by rival factions. Each believed the other intended betrayal. If they clashed, the galaxy would witness a war the likes of which it had never seen. Marcus understood that the key to stopping bloodshed lay in courage, intelligence, and coordination, qualities he and Lyra would have to use together. Lyra met him at the edge of the city's plateau. Her armor gleamed under the sun, her energy blades strapped to her sides. Marcus felt a surge of respect as he saw her surveying the horizon, her stance alert, her eyes sharp. She was a warrior born for moments like this. "They are moving faster than expected," Marcus said, pointing to the distant hills where dust clouds marked the approach of the alien forces. "And the human faction is closing in from the west. Both think the other will strike first." Lyra's jaw tightened. "Then we must strike first, but not to kill. We must confuse, divide, and control them. Force them to see reason before the first arrow flies." Marcus nodded. "Agreed. You know your people better than I do, and I know strategy. If we combine our skills, we can prevent unnecessary bloodshed." The two leaders quickly divided their forces. Marcus took a small unit of humans skilled in tactics, guerrilla operations, and communication. Lyra commanded the Arthurian forces, disciplined, swift, and highly trained. Each of them knew the other's moves only in broad strokes. Trust would be built in the fire of action. As the armies approached, Marcus noticed that both sides were tense, their movements stiff with suspicion. A small misstep could ignite war, but Marcus had a plan. Using the terrain, he directed his human unit to create feints, false attacks that drew the alien forces away from the main path. Meanwhile, Lyra's troops protected the civilians in nearby villages and cut off routes the human faction might use to attack. Marcus moved swiftly among his soldiers, communicating with gestures, sensors, and concise orders. Every decision mattered. A single mistake could cost hundreds of lives. Yet he did not panic. Instead, he relied on calm, clear thinking, the very quality that had earned him respect among humans and, increasingly, among Arthurians. The first clash came as predicted. A squad from the human faction moved toward the northern ridge, thinking the alien forces there were unguarded. Marcus intercepted, using controlled bursts of fire and clever maneuvers to disorient them. He did not strike to kill, but to slow, to guide, to prevent a collision with the alien army. Lyra observed from a nearby hill. Her troops moved like shadows, striking drones, disabling vehicles, and creating barriers to protect the civilians below. When Marcus's unit executed a perfectly timed maneuver, Lyra understood immediately. He was not just a human general. He was a partner, capable of thinking in ways that complemented her strategy. The two armies were now engaged in a dangerous dance. Dust rose from the plains, punctuated by the whir of flying drones, the hum of energy weapons, and the shouts of soldiers. Marcus found himself in the middle of the chaos, directing, adapting, and leading by example. He moved with a balance of aggression and caution, never reckless, always precise. Lyra joined him at a critical moment, defending his flank with her energy blades, her movements fluid and powerful. Marcus was impressed. She was more than a warrior. She was a leader who inspired those around her to fight not just with skill, but with heart. "Marcus!" she shouted over the noise. "They are trying to flank both of us. You need to redirect your squad." "I see it," Marcus yelled back. "Move to the ridge and hold the pass. Use the terrain to your advantage." The two of them worked seamlessly, humans and Artharians coordinating in ways neither army had ever seen before. Marcus's strategies guided the human soldiers. Lyra's presence motivated the Artharians, and together they created a force that confused both factions. The enemy thought they were gaining the upper hand, but every move had been anticipated. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Marcus and Lyra moved from point to point, directing, defending, and ensuring that the civilians remained safe. The rival factions were exhausted and confused. They began to question their orders, their leaders, and even their purpose in this confrontation. At one point, a group of enemy drones threatened to breach the civilian zone. Marcus acted instantly. Using a combination of human technology and the terrain, he set traps that disabled the drones without harming anyone. Lyra's troops reinforced the perimeter, ensuring that no vehicle or soldier could reach the villages. "You are extraordinary," Lyra said as they regrouped briefly. Her voice was low, carrying a mix of admiration and something she did not yet understand. Marcus shook his head. "Extraordinary? No. I am just doing what any leader should do, protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is all." Her eyes studied him carefully. "Perhaps, but most humans would not think this way. Most humans would see only the fight, not the people. You see both." The final phase of Marcus's plan began as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the valley. Using precise timing, he orchestrated a series of maneuvers that forced both armies into positions where further conflict would be impossible. He created corridors for retreat, safe zones for civilians, and signals that instructed both factions to pause. Lyra executed her part flawlessly. Her troops moved with precision, securing the key points Marcus had identified and protecting the retreat routes. The soldiers of both armies, exhausted and uncertain, began to comply. For the first time in hours, the valley was still, silence falling like a weight after the chaos. Marcus walked to Lyra's side, both of them watching the two armies hold their positions, waiting for instructions. "We have done it," Marcus said quietly. "We have prevented a battle that could have destroyed thousands." Lyra nodded, her usual pride softened by respect. "And you led with courage, not with fear. You saved lives today, Marcus Kane, not just humans but Artharians as well. That is something few can claim." Marcus glanced at her. "I could not have done it alone. You were equally brave, equally wise. Together, we turned chaos into order." The Warlord Xylar appeared then, arriving on the plateau with a small contingent of trusted advisors. His presence was imposing, but there was no anger in his expression. Instead, he regarded Marcus with a measured gaze. "You have done what many thought impossible," Xylar said. "You have faced overwhelming odds and prevented bloodshed. That requires more than skill. It requires honor. That is something rare in any species." Marcus bowed slightly. "I am honored, Warlord. My duty is to protect life and to act with integrity, nothing more." Xylar's eyes moved to Lyra. "And you, my daughter, have seen the value of partnership and trust. You must consider carefully what this means for yourself and for your people." Lyra remained silent, but her gaze met Marcus's. In that moment, understanding passed between them. They were not just allies, they were partners, capable of facing challenges together, respecting each other's strengths, and learning from each other's wisdom. As night fell, the two armies withdrew under Marcus's guidance, returning to their respective territories. There was no celebration, only relief. The potential war had been avoided, and the galaxy was still intact. Lyra walked with Marcus back to the city. The violet night sky stretched above them, stars sparkling faintly through the haze of the day's events. "I did not expect this," she admitted softly. "I expected arrogance, recklessness, humans fighting without care, but you are different." Marcus smiled faintly. "I do not fight for glory or for fear. I fight for what is right. That is the difference." They paused at the city gates. Below them, the valley lay quiet, the aftermath of battle still visible but controlled. "The galaxy is full of danger," Marcus said, "but we have proven that humans and Artharians can work together. We have proven that courage and strategy can prevent disaster." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but more than that. You have earned my respect. That is not easily given." Marcus met her gaze. "And you have earned mine. You are a true leader, Lyra. Strong, wise, and courageous. It is an honor to fight beside you." A moment of silence passed. Neither of them spoke, but both understood that the events of the day had changed them. They were no longer just human and alien, general and warrior. They were partners in a bond forged in battle, in courage, and in respect. The city slept peacefully that night. Marcus and Lyra stood together, looking toward the stars. Both knew that challenges still lay ahead: political intrigue, rival factions, and the ever-present threat of war. But they also knew that together they could face anything. And in that quiet moment, under the glow of twin moons and the distant stars of a vast galaxy, Marcus Kane and Lyra, the alien warlord's daughter, felt the beginning of something extraordinary. A partnership that could change not only their lives, but the future of countless worlds. The morning sun rose over Arthar, casting golden light across the jagged mountains and sprawling cities. Marcus Kane stood on the balcony of the Warlord's palace, looking out at the landscape below. He had faced impossible odds, guided two armies through chaos, and earned the respect of both humans and Artharians. Yet, the greatest challenge remained: earning the trust and blessing of Warlord Xylar for a union that few could imagine. A marriage between a human general and the Warlord's fierce daughter, Lyra. Lyra appeared beside him, her expression serious but calm. She had fought alongside Marcus in ways that transcended rank or species. She had seen his courage, his intelligence, and his unwavering sense of honor. And she knew that today, everything would be decided. Not just the future of their relationship, but the future of Arthar and humanity's alliance. "We should be ready," Marcus said quietly. "He will test me, not just as a warrior, but as a man, as a leader. I need to show him that I am worthy, not just of your respect, but of your father's trust." Lyra nodded. "And I will be with you every step. Remember, strength alone does not earn respect. You must show understanding, honor, and loyalty." Together they entered the grand hall of the palace. The room was immense, adorned with symbols of Artharian history and power. Xylar stood at the far end, towering and imposing, flanked by his advisors and elite guards. His gaze swept over Marcus, sharp and assessing, as if measuring every thought and motive. "You have proven yourself in battle," Xylar said, his deep voice echoing in the hall. "You have faced two armies and guided them to order without unnecessary bloodshed. That earns respect. But respect is not enough. You must demonstrate your character, your integrity, and your loyalty. Only then will you be considered worthy of Lyra." Marcus took a deep breath. "I understand, Warlord Xylar. I am prepared to answer any challenge you present. Not as a soldier seeking approval, but as a man committed to honor and the protection of all people under your rule." Xylar's eyes narrowed slightly. Then we begin. The first test was one of strategy and diplomacy. Xylar presented Marcus with complex scenarios, asking how he would respond to threats, political tension, and ethical dilemmas. Each situation was designed to reveal his values and judgment. Marcus answered calmly, clearly, and with careful thought. He emphasized protection, cooperation, and respect for life, demonstrating that he was not merely a warrior, but a leader capable of understanding consequences beyond the battlefield. Lyra watched closely, impressed. Marcus spoke not to impress, but to communicate honestly. Each response reflected his experience, his careful reasoning, and his sense of justice. Xylar's advisors whispered among themselves, noting how Marcus balanced courage with wisdom. The second test was more personal. Xylar asked Marcus to explain why he wished to marry Lyra, a question meant to probe motives. Many humans in history had sought alliances for power, wealth, or conquest. Marcus met Xylar's gaze steadily. "I do not seek marriage for power or advantage," Marcus said. "I have come to respect Lyra as a warrior, a leader, and a person of extraordinary courage. I seek her as a partner because I value her strength, her wisdom, and her character. Together we can build something greater than either of us alone, a partnership that honors her, her people, and the principles I stand for." Lyra's expression softened slightly. Marcus spoke with sincerity, without arrogance or flattery. It was the kind of honesty that could not be learned or faked. Xylar studied him for a long moment. Then he presented the final test, a simulation of battle in which Marcus had to lead forces to defend the city against overwhelming odds. This time, however, Xylar instructed Lyra to act independently, challenging Marcus's ability to coordinate and adapt. The simulation began. Marcus immediately analyzed the situation, directing human and Arthurian troops with precision. He accounted for every move, every possibility, adapting to Lyra's independent maneuvers. Despite their different styles, they complemented each other perfectly. Marcus anticipated Lyra's tactics while allowing her to operate freely, demonstrating trust, teamwork, and strategic brilliance. As the simulation reached its climax, Marcus devised a bold maneuver. Using a combination of human ingenuity and Arthurian discipline, he forced the opposing forces into a position where further conflict was impossible. Lyra executed her part flawlessly, reinforcing his plan without direct communication. Together, they demonstrated not only skill, but the ability to cooperate, respect one another's strengths, and achieve a common goal. When the simulation ended, Xylar stood silently for a long moment. Then he nodded, slowly and deliberately. "You have done what few could. You have proven that your courage, your intelligence, and your honor are genuine. You have not only earned my respect, but shown that you can be a true partner to my daughter." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes meeting Marcus's. "Father, I choose him," she said firmly. "I have fought alongside him, seen his character, and understand his heart. I trust him with my life, my people, and my future." Xylar's expression softened, a rare display of emotion for the stoic warlord. "Then it is settled. Marcus Kane, you are worthy. You shall marry my daughter, and together you will lead a new chapter for Arthur and humanity." Marcus bowed deeply. "Thank you, Warlord Xylar. I will honor this trust, this responsibility, and Lyra with every decision I make." Preparations for the ceremony began immediately. The palace was filled with the hum of activity as humans and Arthurians worked together, blending traditions, technology, and culture. It was a moment of unity, a symbol of what could be achieved when two worlds chose cooperation over conflict. On the day of the wedding, the sky was clear, and the twin suns of Arthur shone brightly. Soldiers from both human and Arthurian forces, lined the ceremonial grounds, standing in respectful silence. Civilians watched from nearby terraces, aware that they were witnessing history. Lyra approached Marcus, her armor replaced by ceremonial attire that honored her culture. Marcus wore the uniform of a human general, decorated with symbols representing honor and achievement. They stood together before Xylar, surrounded by leaders, warriors, and citizens from both worlds. The ceremony was simple yet profound. Words of unity, trust, and partnership were spoken in both human and Arthurian languages. Marcus and Lyra exchanged vows, promising not only love, but mutual respect, protection, and collaboration. It was a union that transcended species, politics, and tradition, a bond forged in battle and solidified through courage, honor, and understanding. As the ceremony concluded, Xylar addressed the crowd. Today we witness more than a marriage. We witness a union of worlds, a testament to courage, wisdom, and trust. Marcus Kane and Lyra will lead us together, showing that humans and Arthurians can achieve greatness when they act as one. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and Arthurians alike celebrated the new alliance, recognizing that the future would be shaped not by fear or division, but by cooperation and shared values. Later, as Marcus and Lyra stood together overlooking the city, they felt the weight of responsibility, but also the promise of possibility. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and dangers yet unseen. But for the first time, they faced the future as partners, united in purpose, trust, and respect. "I never imagined this," Lyra said softly, "that a human could earn my father's trust and my heart." Marcus took her hand, his gaze steady. "Neither did I, but we have done it together, and now we will face whatever comes next, side by side." The twin suns set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. Soldiers, citizens, and leaders returned to their homes, inspired by what they had witnessed. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but today it had seen hope, a hope born of courage, unity, and the extraordinary bond between a human general and the alien warlord's daughter. Marcus and Lyra looked to the horizon, knowing that the challenges ahead would test them again. Rival factions, distant enemies, and political intrigue would rise. But they also knew that their partnership was strong, their trust unshakable, and their combined skills unmatched. Together, they would not only survive, they would thrive, leading humans and Arthurians into a new era of peace, understanding, and mutual respect. And in that quiet, powerful moment, under the light of Arthar's twin suns, Marcus Kane and Lyra understood something that few could ever claim. They had changed history, not through force alone, but through honor, courage, and the unbreakable bond of trust. The galaxy would never forget them,